Hey y'all, quick note. While My Hero Academia was created for kids, this podcast is not safe for work or children. Additionally, this particular episode contains thirsty comments that apply to adult depictions of characters only, or to concepts that have been disconnected from the characters themselves and are being discussed on their own. All trigger warnings and spoilers for each episode can be found at our website, myheroanalysis.com. Thanks for listening!
Hey y'all, this is My Hero Analysis, a podcast about My Hero Academia, aka Boku no Hero Academia. We are three grown adults who mine Japanese children's cartoons for serotonin because God knows our brains aren't making it naturally.
No, they are not. Okay, so my name is Wyatt. My pronouns are they, them, and fun fact about myself is that I'm a little congested because the autumn allergies hit a little early. Thank you, climate change. So hopefully I still sound normal, but if I sound a little scratchy or a little congested, that is why.
You sound lovely.
I was going to say, I think my voice sounds the same.
Yeah, you sound fine. My name is Nicole. My pronouns are she, they. Fun fact about myself, I have a blue jay problem. They keep screaming at me. So they're so mean.
According to one of my friends, birds aren't real.
Oh boy.
They need to come to my house because they will scream at you through the door if there's not cat food outside.
She hates birds. So. My name is Maria. She, they. Fun fact about myself, I'm always having some sort of issue going on. But it's fine. We're here now.
You have a very eventful life.
My life is a drama. It's fine.
Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing that we did last time, which is that I'll guide us through a timeline of the episode and we'll discuss / make fun of everything as we go along. This week, we are covering episode 2 of the anime, What It Takes to Be a Hero, and the accompanying manga chapter, which in this case is still chapter 1. And thank you to Nicole for looking up that information at the last minute because I forgot. If anyone hasn't already realized, Nicole is the glue of this podcast.
I think I realized we didn't do it last week, so I was like, oh.
Well,
I am the chaos.
Paying attention.
I just bring chaos.
I bring, I don't know, volume.
You brought the wonderful idea.
Yes.
That's true. Sure, let's go with that. That sounds lovely. So to leap right into it, the episode opens with a quick recap while Izuku is standing on the roof after All Might saves him from the sludge monster. I think we can all agree, but poor baby Izuku. He's so baby. He's so baby. Oh God, we're going to be saying that a lot. But yeah, he really admires All Might and he really wants to be a hero, but he is quirkless. And in his society, he's considered weak and worthless because of that. So Izuku asks All Might if it's possible for someone who's quirkless to be a hero, and that is where the previous episode ended. So we've done a little recap.
Yes, and thankfully, or not so thankfully, the episode opens with that same creepy laughter roll from the first episode. So thank you, All Might.
Love it.
Let's see here. So basically, while Izuku is essentially flashing back to the last episode, I guess for the audience's benefit, he's working up the courage to ask All Might his big question. And I think it was very interesting that he focuses on All Might's line, "Hope has arrived," while Katsuki is actually focused on how much of a badass All Might is instead. Like, Izuku focuses on the hope, and Katsuki focuses on the punching people. It's very on brand. Yes. Basically, everything has piled up against Deku, or Izuku, whatever you want to call him. He has so many names. Even though he's the one with the actual, like, stereotypically purer dream than Bakugo, and it just makes him want to prove them wrong. And he says, saving people, this is a nice little flash forward to the future. As always, stay tuned. But he says, saving people is the coolest thing you could do. And he wants people to feel safe with his smile. Cough, cough, manga Deku feels at the smiling thing. No spoilers.
Oh, baby. My boy.
Also, I love All Might's look of concern because we all have that same look of concern for baby Izuku many times.
He's like a magnet for parental figures.
He really is.
And
honestly, this kid needs it. Someone has to look out for him because this boy has no sense of self-preservation. But we'll get more into that later.
Yeah, apparently when Izuku asks this question, it startles All Might so badly that he starts steaming. And when I first watched this episode, I was like, what in the absolute fuck is going on? And he transforms from this like very stereotypical, cartoonish, like 100% All-American beefcake kind of vibe that he's got going on to basically the exact opposite of that, aka Small Might, aka our collective husband.
Yes, and Izuku just very rudely just starts shrieking at him.
I mean, so was I.
Yeah. Oh, also you
I like
you called him Twink Might, I want to point out.
Did I?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Anyways, Small Might. I love Small Might. He is
Yes.
my favorite. I mean, I love All Might, granted, but Small Might hits a little different.
He do be hitting different.
But I also like how Izuku is just rambling so into it, just going off, and he doesn't notice like the smoke coming out of All Might. And then the range of emotions, I was just like, sir, we've all been there, but sir.
Too many emotions.
So cute. It's so cute. I love it. And he doesn't expect it like at all.
Neither did I.
Honestly, at this point, I will expect anything and everything from anime, but we desensitized up in this bitch.
Yeah, I was definitely not expecting that. I thought we were going one route, and then Horikoshi flipped it on me. So I think in this scene, Izuku is very much the avatar for the non-suspecting audience.
Yes.
But anyway, after that little episode, cut to intro right away. This song still fucking slaps.
Always.
Yep. Yep. And we watch it through every time.
Mm-hmm.
And I did want to like point out, I don't think I realized it last time, that at one point they're both punching something, always. And it's basically Izuku's and All Might's fists are like literally flashing in and out of each other. And so like it's basically just bashing us over the head with the inheritance trope already.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. I missed it last time.
There's always so
I
many
see all
spoilers.
things.
So many spoilers and intros. It's fine.
Yeah, especially this one. So cutscene to the street/side alley that these villains just really fucking love rampaging down for whatever reason. This is like the third time in a day that this has happened to this specific street. But anyway, the sludge monster is still trapped in the bottle that All Might used to contain him last time. He's pissed as fuck about it, like, you know, obviously. At the same time, Katsuki and his friends are walking down the same alley and they're discussing what just happened in the classroom. His friends are not admonishing him, but they're like, bro, what the fuck? And Katsuki and Izuku's past is sort of hinted at, but the details aren't entirely clear.
Yeah, and before we dive too deep into that, I did want to point out that this little area is called the Tatooine Shopping District. And like Horikoshi is not slick at all about inserting his own fandom into this show.
Yeah, so I rewatched the episode and I did notice that this time it is in the subtitles. It's very obvious. I just missed it. So
You miss a lot of things though. That's why we watch things together.
I do.
Okay, so in this like little scene right before we kind of get into the big fight, I guess. I just wanted to point out a few things. Like, imagine the claustrophobia of being stuck in a soda bottle.
Ooh, for sure.
Yeah, it was sad. It was bad. And I'm not even really claustrophobic. Anyway, with this kind of little group of friends that Katsuki has, the winged boy is once again teased by not being teased. He's like obviously not there. And that will tie into the Easter egg and fan theory discussions we will have at the end of the episode. And also this little bit right here is where there is like the one difference between the anime and the manga that we've noticed so far. It's basically just a panel difference. Like they didn't include one panel from the manga, and that is where Katsuki actually kicks the bottle that the sludge monster is in. And as he's escaping, he's like looming behind him. And it's very scary, very traumatizing. And poor little Katsuki's innocent little face, for once,
Innocent.
is right there.
Yeah. Again, of course, Burn Baby kicks the bottle and releases the slime monster. Honestly, sir, if you hadn't been attacking a kid, you wouldn't have been in the situation. Also, angry Pomeranian, always back at it. One of the things that stuck out to me was the fact that the kids, his friends, are the ones who are telling him he probably took it too far. And not the fucking adults that was present, not the adult. It was his friends.
Oh my god, yeah,
He was-
for sure.
Oh god, I was rewatching this and it made me angry the entire time. I was just like, God, really?
Yet another generational difference, for sure.
Yes.
Slightly problematic.
Ooh, yeah. So yeah, as y'all both mentioned, the recollection of, getting admonished for what happened in the classroom and then like hinting at his past with Izuku, clearly upsets Katsuki because he kicks the bottle, which releases the villain. And like, at this point, like, dude, you're free somehow, accidentally. Just fucking like count your blessings that you managed to avoid getting arrested and fucking go home. But like, this is an anime, I guess, and villains have no chill. I thought it was also interesting when Katsuki is throwing his little tantrum, he was like, just watching him pisses me off. When he's talking about Izuku, like, son, you little chihuahua, if you look at someone and you feel all squirmy and uncomfortable, I hate to break it to you, but that's not anger that you're feeling, and you don't get to bully people because they make you feel all squirmy and uncomfortable. Also, I thought it was funny that Katsuki like is cultivating this whole delinquent persona, but is actually a fucking square who cares deeply about his permanent record.
Yeah. But why are we bullying my nerdy child? I was also very much that way. Nothing could touch my permanent record or without the world ending. So.
Aww.
It's not bullying, it's love.
We tease what we love. Also, I bet you were an adorable child.
I was in
Absolutely.
the corner a lot with a book, not looking at anyone.
yay, me
No
too.
eye contact.
Aw, baby.
Well, back to Katsuki. So we don't spend too much time on my sad little childhood. So basically, in this part, before everything blows up, if you'll forgive the pun, Katsuki.
Absolutely not. You wouldn't forgive mine. I'm not forgiving yours.
Yeah, but mine are like better than yours. So
Them some fighting words.
I mean, it's
Listen.
true. I have no leg to stand on.
anyway, Katsuki basically doesn't want to think about how they used to be friends, him and Izuku, and he only wants to quote unquote teach him how the world really works. So that Izuku can stop being so cute and making him feel all squirmy inside. We see right through you, sir. Also, Katsuki's friends, after they kind of do their little scolding thing, they kind of chuckle and glance at each other because they know exactly what's going on in Katsuki's head. And then they offer to go to the arcade to distract him from his very obvious schoolboy crush. And along with that, they also see if like they want to go to a bar to pick up ladies, and Katsuki very vehemently doesn't want to go to the bar, doesn't want to pick up ladies because he wants to get into his number one school choice because he is a sad little gay nerd.
He is a gay ass nerd.
Yeah. Another thing I noticed is that one of the friends has extremely long fingers.
I'm very
And I
glad I
was just
didn't notice that. That's gross.
Yeah.
Why do
no,
y'all
I
hate,
noticed it.
why do y'all hate
And
his
of
fingers?
course my mind went straight to the gutter, as per usual.
Ew.
Oh wow, we went two different directions.
I was like, I would be able to reach the top cabinets, and you went
Okay, you
in
know what?
the
That's fair. I wasn't being
way other
Yeah.
direction.
Yeah, no, it was just a very like quick thing. I didn't even my mind is always in the gutter for everybody. Always in the gutter. But yeah, no, it was just something I was like, oh. And then like
Oh.
TikTok has ruined me. It has,
Yes.
but yeah, no, like I do not sexualize a child, but I knew as soon as I realized those extremely long fingers,
Mine went right
exactly where.
to the gutter.
Yeah,
I just hate the way
exactly.
Horikoshi draws fingers. Like
likes
we'll
drawing
get to
fingers.
it.
That's a
The
thing.
floppy limbs creep
He
me out.
does draw them really weird. But yeah, you know, just random facts random things that happened during the watch session this time.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Katsuki's throwing a temper tantrum, a small one. Meanwhile, the sludge monster, who has escaped from the bottle, kind of regains his equilibrium, regains his mass, and he starts looming threateningly over Katsuki. And it's so gross, and I hate it.
It's the worst. And trigger warning if you haven't gotten to the show notes yet. It's again very rapey.
Mm-hmm.
I also, as I was watching this, I was kind of, analyzing, because that's the point of this podcast. And I wondered if we wanted to have any kind of commentary, or maybe just kind of like a tiny bonus episode on the commentary of how it is kind of watching these scenes with the sludge monster specifically as women and femmes, as compared to how it's most likely being viewed by the folks that the anime is aimed at as an audience.
Cis
It
dudes.
is, yeah, it's aimed at cis dudes. It's a shonen. That's what it's aimed at. And basically just kind of what it means to watch this scene as these two different, subsets of the population.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I think that's a good point, and something we should definitely revisit in a bonus episode, because
yeah,
there's a lot of nuance.
It's a lot of nuance, and you don't, or rather I haven't seen a lot of discussion about the sludge monster, probably because the first season did come out in 2016, so it was a while ago. But
Mhm.
still, the sludge monster is like one of the worst in the show. And he does also say, I like a skin suit with some fire.
What?
Like, how vomitous, how vile, and also like how many times has this asshole hurt people or killed people or done this? It's the
It's
worst.
super creepy. It's so creepy. And like another thing I wanted to point it out is the villain is legitimately just going after what he wants and doesn't give a fuck about anyone else.
Mhm.
And honestly, that is a lot. That goes back a lot to like the rapey. It's just creepy.
It's power play.
Yes.
Yeah.
And not in a good way.
Oh yeah,
No. Mm-mm.
And honestly, like Maria, now that you've mentioned that, it occurs to me that like you could kind of draw parallels to the sludge monster and Katsuki. Like obviously Katsuki is not on this level, but we're getting a glimpse as what his future could be if he continues down the like moral path that he's on, where he just
Yeah.
shoves his quirk around and doesn't care who gets hurt by it.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. But on the
I hate to
guess
compare him to the sludge monster though, because the sludge monster is
Yeah.
so awful.
yeah,
Also, how dare.
Oh no, for sure. I'm not comparing them directly. I'm just saying like in the future, like if he had gone down a different path, this could have been where he ended up.
Yeah, in the
Yeah.
worst timeline.
Yeah. Oh god.
Exactly. Oh god. I think all of us would have tried to go back in time and murdered or like
Horikoshi.
Horikoshi, we have some fighting words to say.
He's never going to hear this. It's fine.
Oh yeah, no, he could not possibly care less. So cutscene back to the roof and deflated All Might, who from this point forward we're just going to refer to as Small Might. So Izuku is freaking the fuck out. This is his hero, but now he looks like this. What the fuck? What is going on? Very confused. This is not what society has taught me a hero looks like.
Yeah, and like basically Izuku is being a freaking hater, in my opinion. Obviously, Small Might is the superior version
For
of
sure.
the Might forms, and Izuku needs to stop screaming at people that he doesn't find conventionally attractive. It's heckin' rude.
It is startling. You have to give him that.
Yeah, sure, but you don't have to screech at people. Also at this moment, we get the first instance of All Might's, and rather the show's fun little bop music, which is kind of like a key for the audience, kind of showing them that for this moment, everything is fun and fine and everything's wonderful, but also watch out, because the scenes that come after this are going to deeply emotionally wound you. Like
Good.
if you track where the bop is, and then like after, like the scenes almost directly following them, I'm wondering if I'm remembering right. I'm wondering if it's like a, hey, things are fun now, but no, they're not actually. And how dare you assume that?
That is a great point. To see if that holds true, but I bet you're right.
Yeah, we'll see. So as always, stay tuned. We will follow the bop. And also, Sir Small Might, you have a lot of blood there. Are you okay?
Yes, he's spitting out blood like he has consumption.
Yeah.
It's fine. No, I love Small Mite. Every time Small Mite, I'm just like, yes, he's here.
Fair,
I am
fair.
here. Anyway, but I love how freaked out Deku is. But honestly, if that happened to me, I'd probably be freaking out just the same. But it's just funny.
It's very humorous. It's a fun little moment.
Definitely play for comedy. So after Izuku, has his little freak out, All Might decides to trust this random child with, it's essentially a state secret, right? Like All Might is a government employee and he, commits destruction on behalf of the government. But he explains that we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah, it's going to be a while. It's fine. It's fine.
But yeah, he explains that he suffered this debilitating injury, and he can only be, quote unquote, All Might in his All Might form for about 3 hours a day. And honestly, I really loved this very early in your face plot twist. It came right at the beginning, just completely upended all of my expectations that I had for the series. And I was like, oh, dip, I'm on for a much more wild ride than I thought I was.
Yeah, definitely. I did too. Like I said last episode, I went into the show prepared to viscerally hate All Might, and he is literally one of my favorite characters.
He's so good.
Even outside My Hero Academia, he's one of my faves. Also did want to point out that he says that there's plenty of fear behind his smile. And I know we've said poor baby Deku, but also poor baby Toshi.
Yes.
Baby.
So baby.
So baby.
There's a lot of babies in this.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
We wrapped quite a few up.
We just adopting left and right. And then Nicole, did you want to point out some manga translation differences?
I think just this note, if I'm remembering right, since we did these notes a few days ago, basically between your notes and my notes, since you watched the sub and I watched the dub, at least for the purposes of the podcast, they're using a lot of different phrasing, and it's not really important right now. But as we go through the episodes and the arcs and the various characters, I just wonder if it's going to be interesting to see how these different translations go, because the translations are actually different between the dub, the subs, and the anime, and also the manga chapters. They're all different, and it's so interesting.
Even to the point where different manga distributors have different translations.
Yeah, and people have to buy all the different volumes when they're really digging into it. I've seen it on TikTok. I'm not that dedicated, but I appreciate their dedication.
I'm not that dedicated either. It definitely will be coming up in later episodes, though. Once again, we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah, we'll get there when we get there. The most recent internet flame bonfire show. I can't wait to get there, but stay tuned.
God. That was
I'm very excited.
That
was so wonderful. I had such a good time. It was delightful.
Yeah. We should say we're recording this in August 2021. So
yes,
dedicated readers will know what we're referring to.
Oh man, I can't wait to experience that twice. Okay, moving along. So All Might, despite his really it's the equivalent, of a real life disability or chronic illness that he's got because of these injuries and all these surgeries that he had to go through. But despite this, he's still determined to keep being a hero, and he's still pushing himself physically and emotionally, even though he probably shouldn't be.
Yeah. Also, he lifts up his shirt to show off the really kind of gnarly wound he has in his side. And at the moment, I thought it was like Wyatt said, the trope of the big hero having this big old secret is great. But also, All Might, you don't lift up your shirt to show random children your torso. It's a little weird, a little gross.
Yeah.
But other than that, I do really love that All Might is living with this disability or chronic illness, whatever parallel or representation you want to draw from it. And it is also not the quote unquote super crip trope.
Yeah, not our word.
Yeah, not our word. It's from the internet. It was in multiple articles I read. So apologies. And it's not a great word, but it's what the trope is referred to. And that's essentially the trope of how these like superpowered characters use their disability to like become a better version of the power that they have. A good example is the character Toph Beifong from Avatar: The Last Airbender, and how she is completely blind and she's been blind all her life, but that essentially makes her a better earthbender. So her disability makes her better, which is great. It's wonderful. Toph is amazing. And All Might is just a different side of that coin, where he has this disability and he has these accommodations for himself, and he also has the limitations for himself. So it just seems a lot more realistic. And just a good example of what type of disability representation there can also be aside from the quote unquote super crip trope.
Yeah. Also, fun fact. Do you know you can live without your stomach?
I did.
So
I didn't.
Yeah, so the reason you can live without your stomach, well, your eating will be restricted. You can absorb nutrients through the small intestines. And I think you can absorb some from the large intestines, but mostly from the small intestines, because that's like literally the closest to the stomach.
Okay.
But yeah, so the fact that he's still absorbing nutrients, but still the fact that he has had pretty much major organ loss and is still be able to fight, even if it is just with a time limit, is really impressive. Because
So
I
impressive.
don't think I
For
would
sure.
be able to do that. I'd be like, okay, time for me to go retire, leave, move on. Let me
Yeah,
go
the strength of
to
his
this
resolve is
random
ridiculous.
island.
Yes.
So
Also,
Yeah. Go
it
ahead.
just occurred to me, how old is All Might at this time?
He's in his
he's in his
50s.
30s,
50s. Yeah.
50s?
He's
Okay.
I was
he's
gonna
like-
say, yeah, he's also older too, so like he should already be retired by now.
Yeah.
Because I imagine the turnover rate for heroes is pretty high, because the burnout has got to be ridiculous.
Right? And
Yeah.
also, like, I mean, it's very physically demanding.
Yeah.
So,
Like I would imagine most heroes quit in like their 30s or 40s.
Yeah.
yeah.
And we also see the change of that coming up in later seasons. Again, we will get to it, but
Yeah,
it's definitely All Might is a unique example of dedication.
for sure.
Yeah.
Like he's the cream of the crop. He's the living ideal.
Yes. He's the symbol of peace.
Yes.
We all love
Also, like this specific scene is so funny because like if you interpret it literally, you're like, why would you tell that to a child? But then like it's just exposition.
It's world building.
It has to happen somehow, but we're going to interpret it literally because that's fun for us.
Yes.
And we're going to keep doing that.
It's
Okay.
fine.
Yeah. So All Might, basically, he tells Izuku essentially, he finally gets around to answering his question, and he says, no, basically. It's not possible to be a professional hero without a quirk. He does give him other suggestions for ways of, finding a way to save people that aren't as, wouldn't be as reliant on a quirk. I think one of the things he suggests is like the police force, which of course, we're Americans that raised all our red flags. But
Yeah.
like his point is he's got other options. Like even if one dream doesn't work out, he's trying to emphasize the fact that there are many, many dreams that could become reality.
Yeah. Also, another interesting thing is that Small Might is essentially telling Deku that being a hero isn't just about saving people. It's literally putting your life on the line. Again, we've been talking about this a while. And the entire time, the smiling thing, I just feel like it goes to show how heroes, especially someone like All Might, who is put on a pedestal, cannot afford to show anything but confidence. Because the pressure you feel as a hero has to be immense. And I still think it's a bunch of BS, but we'll get into that further down the line. And also, maybe you shouldn't be smiling all the time. Just, an FYI.
Yeah. Maybe it's okay to not smile sometimes.
Right? Also, as much as I love Deku, I do feel he kind of needed a reality check. And
Mhm.
I think that this is what it was. Part of it was he is so fixated on helping people and being a hero. I don't think he ever really considered like the consequences of what could potentially happen.
Like death.
Yeah, like death, or like how All Might literally has organs missing. I do feel bad for him. 100%. But at the same time, All Might doesn't want Deku to be in his position and wants to make Deku understand it.
The risks.
And like the risks of it. Yeah. And like he's not telling Deku not to help people. That's why he brings up the police officer. But like maybe start thinking about something else, because again, it is a very, very dangerous career to be in. Especially for someone without a quirk.
Definitely. Well, we can have the whole like quirk versus non-quirk discussion later. That's definitely going to come up when we get to some other characters that are going to be introduced. But yeah, no, I agree. I think you made a really good point.
And it's also important to realize that All Might went through something absolutely traumatic. And I don't think he wants a child with no powers to go through something like that. Because I wouldn't want
in this moment.
a child. Yeah. In this moment, yeah. I wouldn't want a child who I know, like, literally everybody else he's probably going to be fighting in the future will have powers, and then there's this kid who doesn't. So I can see where he would want to protect baby Izuku, because I want to protect baby Izuku at all costs.
He just I mean, you look at him and he looks like a baby.
He is baby.
No wonder he keeps finding parental figures. Like he's so what's the TikTok word for it? He's orphanable.
Orphanable.
Oh God, I've never heard that.
Ooh, we can get to it in another episode, in like a bonus episode or something, because I love that term and it's really fucking funny. But it happens a lot in like fan fiction and shit. But yeah, we can get to it. But basically, my point is Izuku is adorable.
Yes.
So I can kind of see how there would be this instinct to protect him.
Yes, definitely.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And kind of pivoting kind of off of that, we also like, this is like kind of the first conversation where All Might is referred to as the symbol of peace, which as we kind of like turn more towards plot stuff and like arcs and further down the road of this anime, and kind of moving into like the red string theory part of the fandom. This fight, basically after this fight, he never, and probably before it, honestly, he wanted people everywhere to never think that he's afraid, that he can take all the damage in the world and keep going in the fight. But then he finally had this fight with the villain. He doesn't name the villain here in this episode, but folks who are up to date with the property itself know it is AFO, and we'll talk about AFO more later. But he basically has to keep that debilitating injury under wraps so that he can preserve the national security of the country. And he has to hide all this trauma because he knows that as a symbol of peace, pillars that he has built, he knows it can't come crumbling down. And if it does, terrible, terrible stuff is going to happen. I do also like that they're both, like in this moment, if you analyze it deeply enough, like we do, they are both admitting,
analysis, quote unquote.
Quote unquote, yes. They're both admitting that their smiles are actually somewhat performative in the midst of their courage. So even as they're both clinging to the smile through the pain, conceal, don't feel tropes, they also know, like in the back of their heads, they know the smile is meant for something that's not just a smile. So I thought that was a lovely little hint at what's to come. Also, another red string. He mentions that the fight was actually 5 years ago, and because Wyatt and I are actually now caught up on the spinoff
Vigilantes.
Yeah, the spinoff manga called Vigilantes, and that actually does take place 5 years ago as well. So I'm just curious if we're going to see how this fight and the Vigilantes spinoff does or does not actually weave together. I just love that shit.
I have been lazy a lot lately, but it's fine. I'll
You need to catch up.
eventually.
Yeah, you need to catch up and
I
live
can
text
catch
us
up
your
in a
reactions.
day, actually. If I
Okay.
really just sit down, I can literally catch up in a day, but I am
Do it.
lazy.
Do it. No, we won't talk about it on air because it's spoilery. Anyway,
We really want you to catch up.
yes, we do.
I
Yeah,
will
well,
catch up eventually. Like, I'll set aside a day and just like read everything. It's fine.
Okay.
Sounds
We can do
good.
it in like
good. The group chat needs a good explosion. Since Wyatt
it
and I are
does.
caught up now.
I'm pretty good at having explosive moments.
Yes.
Hence, Wing Boy.
Oh, wing boy. Okay. Also, one last thing about this little conversation.
Mhm.
Again, I am like deep in My Hero Academia TikTok. It's what actually got me into the show instead of vice versa. And a lot of the fandom, not just on TikTok, but a lot of the fandom kind of give All Might some flack for leaving Izuku on the roof after essentially tearing apart his entire dream. And this was just after his childhood friend essentially did the same thing. But I do want to point out that All Might couldn't possibly have known that history. So even if it's not great in total, it wasn't purposeful or like hateful. He's just he's just kind of clueless.
Yeah.
A little bit.
You know, sometimes I wonder, like, if things had like gone differently from this episode on,
Mhm.
like the quirkless vigilante Izuku TV show and manga that we could have gotten. I bet it was awesome.
Yes.
I bet it was amazing.
But
I'm
also
sure there's plenty of fan art and fanfics.
Oh,
yes,
there are
thank you.
so many.
There's
Oh my
so
god.
many.
There are plenty
Like
of
the
fanfics out
orphanable
there.
thing I was talking about earlier ties into this pretty directly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do want to point out for folks who may not be entirely caught up on the properties, I'm just gonna say the name Knuckle Duster and kind of leave it at that. So
Okay, but I don't like him. I want a different one.
well, it's what you have now. So it's there.
Okay.
It's present.
It
But yes,
is. It is.
Vigilante-
It is touched upon.
Vigilante Izuku would have been top
It would have been
notch.
amazing. So, as Nicole pointed out, All Might or Small Might leaves Izuku on the roof because their conversation is over. It's done with. You know, Izuku's like, "Oh God, all my dreams are shattered," and Small Might's like, "I gotta go." And he realizes as he's walking down the stairs from the roof to like the entrance of this building that they're in, that he doesn't have the villain with him because he had the villain in the bottle in his pocket. It's no longer there. And oh, look, there is smoke in the distance. Oh dear.
I wonder who that could be, you know?
Fucking wonder. Yeah, Izuku also sees the smoke from the roof, and he also almost rushes to the scene as well, like he's used to doing. But he's a little busy. His dreams have been shattered, by his childhood idol, and I don't want to use the word angsty, but like he's having a moment, you know,
Yes.
like he's processing.
It's angst. But anyway, poor Deku has a realization that he probably shouldn't hurry over like he usually does.
Yeah, poor thing. I do want to point out that he sees the smoke and kind of hears the explosion, and he immediately assumes it's a villain. But like, bro, have you not heard of gas leaks? Why do you have to assume it is a villain?
Well, I wonder if villain attacks are more common than gas leaks.
I don't know.
Maybe at this
Because
point.
we've just looked at one street. We've already been through like what, 3 villain attacks in the same day. So that's a
Yeah.
fucking lot.
It is a lot. I guess I'm just coming from the American standpoint of it, where all our infrastructure is
Oh, God.
just crumbling around us. Anyway,
That's a good ass point. That is a good ass point.
Fine. Everything's fine. We're okay, you know?
Oh.
Fine.
it's fine,
Land of the free or whatever.
or whatever.
Anyway.
Anyway,
So yeah. Anyway. we finally cut back to the sludge monster, who's busy trying to take over Akatsuki the same way he tried to take over Izuku. Parallels being laid very early. Horikoshi sets up so much in just the first few episodes.
Yeah, it is A+ writing. I am very jealous. How dare he have that talent? So rude.
Also, boss music starts playing.
Yes.
Just, that's how you know it's about to go down.
Yeah.
I enjoy the boss music.
Oh yeah, it's great. And at the scene of this fight, the pro heroes are like already on the scene, and one woman does call the guy a monster, but only after he's caused a bunch of destruction. So I do have to agree on this one. This one instance of him being called a villain.
Yeah,
Also,
fair.
he's very sticky. I don't like it.
Blech.
Ugh. So sticky. No.
Yeah, so Katsuki, he's got his work cut out for him. This is a pretty powerful person that he's fighting against. But he is putting up one hell of a fight, which is good because all the pro heroes are kind of just like standing around and freaking out. I mean, okay, so like Kamui Woods is saving bystanders, Mount Lady is saving bystanders, and Backdraft is putting out fires. But like, so people are doing things, essential things that need to be done. But there are plenty of heroes that are just like standing around like, we can't do anything. And I'm like, no, can you really not? Can you really not? I think you're relying too much on quirks. I think you're relying a little too much on quirks.
Coming in with the
Mount
commentary.
Lady had to protect all the bystanders because,
Yes.
that's what they do. They just show up.
Yeah. Yeah. And like as part of this with the pro heroes there, the character Death Arms, who's the super strong guy, he finally comes in with the real talk, at least in the dub, and he literally tells the guy, "How dare you prey on a child?" And like,
Right.
"Thank you, sir." Finally, someone says it. Okay. We do have some other heroes show up, including a baseball themed guy, which like I get it. Japanese folks love baseball, but why? We also see a kind of bird themed guy, like he's wearing a bird mask. And this actually really looks like one of the sidekicks for a character who hasn't come in yet, doesn't come in for a while, but he does look like one of Hawks's sidekicks. Yeah, it really looks like him. If you're curious, you can see him in chapter 199 and or the anime episode 93, probably among others. But I saw him and I was like, wait, what? Wait, okay. Yeah, that's just my little red string observation. Anyway, like Wyatt said,
so much.
I do. It's the only thing that gives me joy is finding the Easter eggs and the red strings and like any property. Like it could be any fandom I'm in. I connect something and it's like instant dopamine.
Well, I am very admiring of it.
Yeah.
If I can pronounce my words right.
Thank you.
I catch some things, not others.
It's a good balance between all three of us.
Yeah.
Hope so.
Okay, so back to Akatsuki. He is putting up a good fight, whereas Izuku couldn't do anything about being taken over by the sludge monster. And I'm not like victim blaming or anything. It's just like a comment on their society. Like Akatsuki can put up this fight for sure, but he's still really fucking scared, and like nobody really wants to make a comment on that. He was so terrified. He's being assaulted the same way Izuku was. And then as they're there, Mount Lady shows up and is stymied by small alleyways.
I mean, she's very large.
Yeah, but I had to roll my eyes. Like, honey, just reach down there and kind of scoop them up. You can do something.
Yeah. Again, they like have this very specific mindset of like, my quirk does this. This is what I can do. This is what I'm good for, and I can't do anything else.
Yes. Yeah.
They're not creative.
No, they're really not creative. And I guess the new generation will be. Cough, cough. Stay tuned. So as they're fighting a baseball guy who I don't think was named like the other characters, but he really needs to stop with the puns. This is a very serious fight.
But he's also got to advertise himself because don't forget, he still needs to be famous.
Yeah. It's terrible. And also like kind of pivoting off the Japanese stereotypical love of baseball and kind of building off what Wyatt says. This is like they say it very plainly, like it's a bad type matchup for them. And like, I'm just wondering if there's a running theme in like within Japanese pop culture that we as Westerners aren't as keyed into. But it's very similar to the type matchups in Pokemon and even in other video game properties like Paper Mario, which is my favorite property, but this is neither here nor there. They have like a little side quest called Rochambeau. So it's very important to them, but also I think Horikoshi is doing a nice commentary on, yes, we have type matchups, but we can also try other things.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. So that's like a whole other level.
And then just kind of the fight is a spectacle. Bystanders are there in the way. All Might has so much pressure on himself, that poor child. And like the most horrifying part of like this series, like for me personally, I don't like scary faces. I don't like horror. But the shots of Katsuki's eyes over the sludge villain's mouth is just horrifying. It's triggering. I hate it. I want to save my child. It's like my like arguably one of the worst scenes for me. It's just terrible. I hate it.
Oh yeah, when he went all out with this one, it's a lot.
My poor child.
Yeah, but going off of why the power matchups, I think this really does show parallels to the talk that All Might just had with young Midoriya.
Oh,
I love that, young Midoriya.
It's so cute.
And it really is. Here we see like there's all these different heroes that have to work around their weaknesses. In the first episode, it's not shown at all. Like it's shown like they can take down whatever. But here in this episode, this is the second episode, we have the weaknesses and like kind of we get to realize that heroes aren't all powerful. And they have to wait for someone with a suitable quirk. And they have to know how to work together and work with each other and like maybe take a step back. But at the same time, a child is fucking dying.
Yeah, for sure. I also think that this scene is, now that, we've seen everything that there is to see so far for this series, looking back on it now, it's easier to see that this episode and this particular scene is foreshadowing for a much, much, much later event where the adult heroes start giving up, but the students don't lose their momentum and they work together to basically pick up the adult slack.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, generational 100%. Differences is a big ass theme.
And again, we have the bystanders just standing around, looking dumb. I'm watching all this play out. When you could have, gone home, walked away. I mean, I get it. It's fun to watch, but like, you getting in the way.
Yes, very much getting in the way. So All Might.
This is my rant. My constant rant.
So Small Might finally arrives on the scene, but he, like the other heroes, is also feeling very despondent, and he feels like he can't do anything because he's still in his Small Might state, and he's having trouble bringing up the All Might state. He calls himself specifically pathetic. Multiple times. Yeah,
he has so much pressure on himself, and it is really sad just kind of watching him observe himself like in his Small Might form. He can only like jog and wheeze and kind of crawl to where he needs to be, whereas the All Might form can fly. It's got to be heart-wrenching knowing that he can't do what he wants to do.
For sure.
Therapy. So much therapy. Everybody needs therapy.
Yeah, cut scene to Izuku, who's walking home, he thinks he's walking home, and he's still coming to terms with the possibility of not being a hero. But he hears the explosion, another explosion very close to him, and he realizes that subconsciously he has walked towards the attack, probably because it's something he's done so many times before. He didn't mean to show up, but it was a force of habit.
And while he was walking, he was crying over his dream journal and plumbing the depths of his soul and thinking his notes are useless. And like, poor sweet baby Izuku.
Yes, poor sweet baby. And then when he sees the villain, he recognizes it and he feels responsible because All Might most likely dropped the bottle with the villain in it when Izuku grabbed onto him. So he immediately takes responsibility for the sludge monster's actions, even though, again, even if the sludge guy had escaped, he could have just fucking gone home and had some chamomile and calmed the fuck down. But rapists don't take the day off, I guess. So
No, they surely don't. And he feels so much guilt, even though he is also a victim of that same rapist.
and there's a very clear parallel between Izuku and Small Might and the pressure they put themselves under, and even like the names that they call themselves and how they berate themselves.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's definitely like you can definitely see a parallel between both of them. And it's like it's the boy who wants to help but can't, and then the man who had the power but doesn't anymore. Like,
Yeah.
because you just want to
Amazing
hug
way to
both
put
of
it.
them.
Yep. And like along with the parallels between Izuku and All Might, you also see the parallels between Izuku and Katsuki again. Now that they're kind of
Yes.
in the same place, like Katsuki, he's still fighting even while he's being suffocated, and Izuku is like remembering that and knowing he just remembering how trapped he was. He can't understand how he's still fighting, and I wonder if this was like a horrible but still like a bonding moment for Izuku towards Katsuki, because
For
they're
sure.
undergoing this same sort of assault. And it makes me wonder if Katsuki has ever found out that Izuku got essentially hit first. Like, I wonder if that's ever going to come into play, like in future chapters, since it hasn't been mentioned since. And just basically, it's like the dark night of the soul for both of them in this 2-episode arc. They're both feeling the shame. They're both feeling so guilty. They're both feeling so much pressure. And I just want to hug them both because they are baby. All three of them, because they are all baby.
All three of them. Yes,
They're all baby. Very different forms of baby, but all baby.
All baby.
So yeah, Izuku is definitely having a bonding moment towards the person who's being attacked. At first he doesn't recognize who it is,
Mhm.
but then he sees Katsuki's face and their eyes lock, and Izuku realizes like, oh shit, this is Katsuki, and he just fucking leaps into action, doesn't pause, doesn't think anything, just like totally leaps in there. Small Might, everyone else is fucking shook.
Yeah. And Izuku just leaps into action. And I imagine his inner monologue that he's probably suppressing the memory of is he's basically thinking, that's my boyfriend, you sludgy slut. But seriously, like, since this is like my 3rd or 4th rewatch, especially knowing all the future arcs that are to come, the quote unquote Bakudeku ship, as it's called, was definitely a sleeper for me. Unlike you,
very
Wyatt.
much a slow build on the first
It's-
watch.
It's slow.
So slow.
Yeah.
But
Definitely
it's okay.
did not exist at this moment.
No, certainly
no,
not for
no.
me. But it's okay. I'm a multi-shipper. It's fine.
Oh, multi-shipping is love, multi-shipping is life.
Yes.
Yeah, I just enjoy. I like the look of fear that Bakugo
Mhm.
has, and Izuku running to help is just
It's a
prime
beautiful
writing
moment.
right there. It's
Yes.
a beautiful moment. Prime
Chef's
writing.
kiss. Yeah, definitely a significant eye contact moment. Great for shipping and great for plot.
Yes, definitely. They knew what they were doing. Anyway, so I think it's interesting that both Izuku and All Might were actually waiting for a real hero to show up, quote unquote, someone who would be well suited to the sludge monster. And Izuku just jumps into action after that significant eye contact moment.
Mhm.
And that just shows that Izuku is a real hero, like arguably as much of a real hero as All Might. His body moves before he can think to save his friend. And Katsuki recognizes him immediately. And another red string moment is that it's a mild or not so mild parallel to what happens in the camp arc. Once again, stay tuned, y'all. There is so much.
Yeah.
Yes.
As much as I love this, no sense of self-preservation. This is the beginning of like constant yelling, "Why, sir? Why?"
that is
Like, I
fair.
love it, but why?
Yeah. So going back to Nicole's point earlier of Izuku like kind of berating himself for taking, you know, all these notes in his little notebook and doing all this analysis, and him thinking, well, I shouldn't have done that. That was all useless now. Well, in this moment, all of that studying that Izuku had been doing up to this point kicks in, and he throws his backpack at the villain to blind and disorient them, to like give himself a moment to get to Katsuki, which is
Mhm.
that's not a bad move. That's a good move. And like he didn't have anything to back it up because, you know, he doesn't have much practice, like
Mhm.
not much practical application. But yeah, I thought, you know, that was a pretty good indication that Izuku's dreams, they're not just pipe dreams. He does have the drive and he does have the potential to back it up. And your notebooks aren't useless, baby. They come in handy so many times.
Yes, all the times. His strategy immediately comes into play, and it's such a difference between even him and the pro heroes who are all standing there waiting for a good type matchup to come. When you don't need to wait for the person best suited to the job, if you can just think outside the box,
Yes.
even if you don't follow through with it, you can rely on the teamwork of those around you because there are so many pro heroes there. Somebody could have just done something and it could have just been a chain of events, but they
Mhm.
had to wait for this literal child to jump in because their practical applications are lacking, I guess, in that
Yes.
area. And he just cries out for Kacchan and he desperately tries to save him. Katsuki is very confused that it is Izuku here saving him. And we do kind of slip back into Izuku's narration.
Yes.
Because in that moment, he is remembering everything that is leading up to that moment. And he remembers to smile at Kacchan and reassure him that he couldn't just stand there and watch him die. So it was a beautiful moment. And the Bakudeku ship is rising in my personal rankings. And it's just all the things come together, the plot, the character, the relationships. It's such a beautiful moment, even though it is utterly terrifying and gross. So
Well,
Yes.
my one headcanon is that Deku has a fan club, and I don't care.
oh
That's
yes.
it.
Oh
That's
yeah,
my one.
that's considered canon to us.
Yeah.
But we'll get
we'll
there.
get to it.
So yeah, as y'all mentioned, like this is like a really powerful moment. Small Might is so moved by this display that he's actually able to like manifest some energy and turn back into All Might and defeat the villain.
Yeah.
So yeah, Nicole, as you mentioned, even if you don't have a full plan in mind, even if you think you can't do anything, doing something can
Mhm.
set off a chain of events that is ultimately helpful that you may not have been able to imagine.
Yeah, imagine by yourself, definitely.
Mhm.
All Might takes so much inspiration from that one little moment, that one selfless action, and finds it within himself to rise to the occasion, no matter what the personal cost is in that moment, which is yet another trope in this society. It's just all the self-sacrifice, but it comes
Yes.
together wonderfully, at least in this moment. And so as he's launching into action, he goes into his like All Might narration, which I appreciated in the moment. Sometimes it's a little over the top, but it's nice for this moment. And he tells Izuku that Izuku has finally reminded him that he hadn't been living up to his own ideals and that risking your life is the true test of a real hero. Like, it's a beautiful moment and it's wonderful, but also, y'all, you put way too much pressure on yourselves.
Mm.
So a mixed bag, honestly.
It is. All Might literally realized that this kid just did something that he himself had been struggling with.
Mm-hmm.
We all love him for it. That's fine.
I am going to ruin this beautiful moment by reminding everyone that All Might punches the air so hard that it starts raining, which puts out all the fires that Katsuki and then the sludge monster taking over his power and setting off his own explosions too. I'm not like, we never really get clarity about how that works. But yeah, All Might punches the air so hard it starts raining and it puts out all the fires. This is hilarious to me. It's so fucking funny.
Yeah. It's hilarious that he literally just fucked with the air pressure so much to create weather. Like, it's so over the top.
Yes.
We also get the fist raise and the All Might theme song, which is, again, it's very foreshadowy to a certain other pivotal fight. So stay tuned once again.
Yeah.
We're going to be saying that every episode.
The music choices for this anime are top tier.
Oh god,
yes.
yeah. They're amazing. All of them.
I feel like we should do a side just on all the music.
Yes, we
I'm
can
down.
talk about how I bawl every time I hear the Heroes Rising song.
I'm totally down for that.
Right.
So yeah, All Might defeats the villain, puts out the fires. all the heroes that are currently there start, helping to clear everyone out, get things rebuilt. They know how to do this. They've done this before. In the meantime, Izuku is getting lectured by the heroes for putting his life in danger, while Katsuki is getting praised. Part of me wonders if this is like the pros acting out on their embarrassment because this tiny little teenage boy just showed up and showed them up. Also, I love that like adult narrator Izuku, because we're seeing all of this from Izuku's point of view, like from his future self. Is clearly still bitter about this.
Yeah.
He should be.
Yeah, definitely. And like as part of his cleanup scene, I do want to point out that they're putting the sludge villain into trash bags where he belongs. It was beautiful.
Taking out the trash.
Apropos.
Yep, definitely. So along with what Wyatt pointed out, Izuku is essentially being scolded for jumping into a crime scene, ostensibly without any training or without a license or any of that. But I do want to point out that he's not actually charged with anything because in their society, being like fighting crime with your quirk without a license is a crime. But just jumping into action without a quirk, they can't really get him on any of that, which is just a very interesting point. Yeah, meanwhile, Katsuki is getting praised for his bravery, but more so for his amazing quirk rather than just his own personal determination, which again is just reinforcing his complexes, his superiority and his inferiority, just like back in the classroom. And one more red string moment, if the bird guy hero there is actually the same person as Hawk's sidekick. He invites Katsuki to sidekick for him at his agency once he's trained up. So it makes me wonder if this guy had his own agency in that intervening year between essentially now and the future, or if he was telling Katsuki to come to Hawk's agency, which I would pay so much money to see that.
Oh my God.
Timeline.
Yeah.
That would be such a goddamn train wreck. It would be so funny.
It'd be wonderful.
It'd be
I'm here
amazing.
for it. Yeah. One of the main things is it shows how the two of them are being treated very differently. It kind of like digs in the two sides of the hero society, where like pretty much the strong people are always praised, where the weak are not. But let's be honest. If I had seen Deku do this, I probably also would have admonished him. Because, baby, you was dumb. No.
I definitely would have pulled an Inko and started crying all over him, being like, "Are you okay?"
Oh, I probably would be crying my eyes out, but like I'd still be like, "How could you?"
Must protect.
Must
So
my
yeah,
baby.
cutscene to Izuku walking home. He's calmer than he was, but he's still a little depressed. And then Katsuki catches up to him, and I imagine that when he was walking up, he was going to try to say something like a thank you, but then he got like more nervous and embarrassed. And then by the time he actually got to Izuku, he's basically just yelling. It doesn't go well. Katsuki, you idiot. And then his weird ass stomp as he walks away.
It's beautiful. His little Angie march away. And he always walks like that. If you
He does.
pay attention, yeah, he always walks so weird. And it's hilarious and wonderful. But also, I am a pessimist, and I wonder if there is a terrible alternative in that he is actually sore from his recent assault on his orifices. So.
I mean, if we're looking at it from Horikoshi's perspective, he probably just meant it in a comedic sense. But these are our headcanons, and we can do what we want. That is very upsetting, though. Thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. It's hilarious
Yeah,
and very upsetting. I'm not sorry.
I did not want to think about this, but like Bakugo, your superiority complex is showing.
It's showing so hard.
This child.
This poor child, this poor baby. He basically yells at Izuku that he would never have asked a weakling like him for help, and he demands that Deku not look down on him and like, "Sir, your trauma," and also, "Sir, your crush." There's just so much happening in that moment.
Good God. Yeah, I did think the demand to not be looked down upon is interesting because
Yes.
right now, we're seeing things from Izuku's point of view, and Katsuki's this bully.
Hmm.
But Katsuki's point of view, which is incorrect, is that he and Izuku are on equal footing because he thinks that Izuku is constantly looking down on him for some reason, because he's like, well, we'll get to it.
Yeah, we'll get this is the dynamic that literally goes through the entire series. It's beautiful. We'll get to it. Stay tuned. He does also say, along with that, he has one little aside. I'm not sure if it's in the sub, but he basically says that he could have saved himself.
Yeah.
But it's clear to the audience that he really couldn't have. And the fact that he needed a quirkless kid to jump in and save him just kind of proves that he's not as all-powerful as he thinks he needs to be. And this is just so much fuel on the fire of him needing to be his best so that something like this can never happen again. And he just needs to be as strong as possible so that he cannot be touched. And then even that is proven wrong once again, and we will get to it. And my poor son.
Yes.
And he says he doesn't owe Izuku anything, and it's just a beautiful moment between the two of them.
Yeah, Izuku's face is just like, what the fuck was that? He's so confused.
To be fair, I would probably also be like that. I'd just be like, it's been a long day. I don't have the time to deal with this.
Yep. Like, I don't have time for your weird ass shit right now, Katsuki.
I just need to go home, take a nap, question my life choices in the shower. Like, I feel like that's where I would be.
Yeah.
And in fact, Izuku is doing exactly that. Like, he's rallied his spirits up again quite bravely. He's very good at doing that. He's very self-motivated. And he is actually about to, question his life choices and start, brainstorming a new dream. But then All Might shows up again. And then he immediately transforms back into Small Might. Blood spray. Horikoshi, darling, we need to talk.
I mean, he's got the consumption. He's got missing organs. It's fine. Also, in that little scene, there's like a little backdrop of the American flag, and like, sir, All Might, you're a Westaboo, as it is. And also, I love his violent deflations. It's wonderful, and I love him.
He's so much.
Gotta love a good blood spray. But again, honestly, it's not the most graphic thing I have seen in a shonen.
Well, I'm
Again,
sure.
I am desensitized. And the drama. I'm here for the drama. Keeps me living.
Well, I'm not as familiar, and I'm a fucking baby, so.
Yeah, you're a baby. There's so much in this show that you're like freaked out by, and I'm over here like, what?
Yeah,
it is weird though, because like, I watch Nicole doesn't like horror. I do. I watch a lot of horror movies that have a lot of like batshit traumatic stuff, and it doesn't bother me, but suddenly it's animated and I can't handle it.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just desensitized to everything. So
Poor Maria's just chugging along, having to deal with it.
yeah, right now I have just finished my Red Bull, so I am high on caffeine right now.
Fuck yeah. Okay, so moving along, we keep getting distracted, but it's fine. There's just a lot to talk about.
It's our podcast. We do what we want.
Exactly. So All Might reveals to Izuku that his bravery inspired him to like rally his spirits, enabled him to transform, defeat the villain. More cherry blossoms, more crying and angst. My poor sweet baby, he's got the whole world on his shoulders already, and the tears. I feel that. I cry at the drop of a hat.
Yeah, definitely. Basically, All Might is here to thank him and like redo their entire conversation, and he thanks him for the inspiration of a timid, quirkless boy trying to save a life, and it's so inspiring. And just like Horikoshi sure does love his inspirational acts, and also cough cough Oboro cough sobbing. It's
we can't handle that right now.
But the
I
parallels.
will be crying in this closet.
Oh my god, we're gonna be crying so much when this comes back in season 5. Anyway, he tells Izuku kind of like he gives him a flash into the history of superheroes. And he tells him how heroes move before they can think, almost on their own. And in this moment, Izuku is crying and like, is Izuku happy or is he having a panic attack triggered by just his mother's words and All Might's words and everything that's happened? Like, I felt that moment when he was just unable to breathe.
Yeah, and I mean, that's totally fair because then All Might tells Izuku that actually, yes, you can in fact become a hero like you dream. And that's, I mean, that's big.
That is really big. And I feel like Small Might admitting he was wrong was a big deal. And like the fact that he said that baby, young Midoriya, small baby Deku, needed to be there and not anyone else, just him. And that just, right in the feels.
Yes.
Like, I completely understand him having, like, a mental breakdown, because, like, I probably would have also, especially considering the day. Because this feels like it all happened in, like, a day. Maybe 2 days.
Yeah, this is all happening in one day. In fact, it's all happened within a few hours.
Exactly. So, like, I've been there, done that, and I have broken down by the end of it. So the fact that he just like was able to like I completely understand why he's panicking, because I probably would also be panicking and like losing my shit.
Yeah, for sure. And then as the episode ends, we get his narration again, and he says, "This is the story of how I became the world's greatest hero." So this entire show, or this entire property, is all literally a huge flashback, which also means that Izuku knows everything that happens after every episode and chapter, and I'm not fine about that. I can't imagine future Izuku. Poor baby. I do want to point out he does not say that he's the number one hero, by the way. So just a little Easter egg, especially after we get to season 4.
Yeah, the meta-ness of Izuku narrating his own story and then fitting it within a typical superhero narrative, but then also deviating from that narrative or those narrative conventions at like very specific points is just, oh my god, it's so much. My brain is so happy.
It's so wonderful.
It is called neurodivergence.
Giving it away.
Okay, call me out like that's fine.
It's fine because I'm calling myself out here too.
We all just called out.
Yeah.
So yeah, then All Might is like, you can be a hero, young Midoriya, and then end credits. They're still the same, obviously. We will mention when they change and comment and do our little analysis thing with them.
Yeah. I noticed this time that the song is spot on with the themes of the show, especially the lyrics. It doesn't matter if I cry, it doesn't matter if I stumble, like music choices, A+.
Yes.
Always. Again.
They're all so good.
Every music song, every song is so like wonderful.
Yeah, they really did good with that. And then of course we had our preview. Izuku was going to inherit a quirk. What the fuck? What does that mean? I didn't know that's how it worked. What the fuck is One for All? Why is Izuku lugging around a tire? And why is a literal child getting buff?
All valid questions. Yes. But we also get the first shots of Ida and Uraraka. So next episode is going to be wonderful.
Oh,
I'm so excited.
So yeah, that is our timeline of the episode. And now Nicole's going to take it away with a little analysis on the manga differences and some Easter eggs for us.
Yes, my favorite part. Really, the only manga difference is that one panel we mentioned earlier where Katsuki kicks the bottle and the sludge monster is looming behind him very threateningly. Other than that, there were just some translation differences, which we already talked about. So
yeah, they're not super significant in this episode, but they might be later.
Yeah, they get important, I guess. Anyway, so fan theories and Easter eggs. Let's see. Before we get the sludge monster's second attack, we get that scenelet that we talked about where Katsuki and his two friends are chatting away. And it is notable, at least to us who know what's coming, that the Winged Boy is not there. We don't know the timeline of Winged Boy's changes as it is. But just stay tuned, keep watching. If you're reading the manga, read closely when you get to the Stain arc, because it gets pretty sad.
And by winged
Yeah.
boy, again, just to reiterate, we mean the winged boy that helped baby Katsuki beat up baby Izuku.
Yes, when they were like
Yep.
4.
I'm still very proud of how I made y'all cry. Because again, I needed to cry, so someone else needed to cry with me.
How dare you? But also
Yeah.
thank you.
How dare. Anyway, so the next one, we already kind of talked about it. It's just like the pro hero who is at the fight, who had the bird mask, really looks like Hawks's sidekick. And again, I just want to repeat how it would have been a wonderful, wonderful alternate timeline if Katsuki had ended up interning with Hawks. I just want to see it.
You know that
chaotic.
that what if show that Marvel is doing?
Yes.
Just a what if episode where Katsuki and Hawks have to get along. And they do interact later and it's very fucking funny. But yeah, that is imagining that is giving me so much joy because it would be so much.
It would be beautiful.
a
I
dream.
need it. Somebody get Horikoshi on the phone. Okay. let's
Sir,
see.
if you're seeing this, we want this.
He's
Yeah.
definitely not seeing this.
Well,
Probably.
he probably
He's
can't
hearing
see it. Yeah, he's hearing it, but also he's
Yeah.
not hearing it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and like building off of that point, we didn't talk about it above, so I can get into it now because I think about everything, especially since season 5 is just now getting to this arc. You could kind of dive deeper and wonder if this bird guy, who I don't think he has a name, so I'm just going to call him Bird Guy, who's
Mhm.
actually also in the Liberation Army.
Yeah.
And just kind of
Which is
thinking
something
about
that comes up in the current season that we're in, but we haven't gotten to
Mhm.
that in the anime yet.
Oh yeah, definitely. So I just like thinking ahead again with that what if alternate timeline, and what if they had actually been trying to turn Katsuki to the dark side from literally this early. I just think it's a great thing to just think about, like just to ponder. But I don't personally think that there's any evidence for that, since I'm pretty sure even if Hawks' agency is technically independent, and we will get to it, we will get to Hawks' poor backstory.
Yeah, him and the Hero Commission.
Yeah, it's anyway. So even if his agency is independent and not just a puppet for the Hero Commission, I don't think he would pick heroes who would also be traitors. Anyway, the bird guy, he's not even on the fan wiki, and I haven't seen him in the crowds of the Liberation Army. So none of this is actually based on any sort of reality. I just like to think about it.
Yeah, it's a really
Because it's
interesting
weird.
thought.
Especially when you get to what happens after the camp arc.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I agree with you that this scene and like that comment of like, hey, come be my sidekick seems to focus more on like, Katsuki's obviously negative reaction to being called a future sidekick. It's like,
Ooh,
darling,
yes.
you're not going to be number one right off the bat. Like there's a process
Right.
you have to go through. You're probably going to have to be a sidekick first. So, his impatience
right.
and his refusal to face reality. I really like that theory though.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you want to wander further down that rabbit hole, I am happy to tag along.
Probably will, because I have no other joy in this life. Anyway, just to round up the final Easter eggs, we had the mention of AFO in All Might's fight 5 years ago, and just
Mhm.
my vague wondering of how or if it is even going to tie into the Vigilantes spin-off series.
Yeah.
But I just needed them to line it up and tell me exactly what happens. So if they don't do that by the time the series ends, I will be very mad. And that's all
Same.
I have.
Maria,
Just a
read
little-
Vigilantes.
Read it.
I will. Yeah, no. I just had like a little like blip it. Like I was just imagining what would happen if Deku, if the big three, they haven't introduced my other emo child yet.
We're close.
We're close, yeah. But if the big three, those three decided to have a agency together,
Oh my
Ugh.
god.
good lord.
I need it.
What a mess.
I need it.
I know. They all share one brain cell. It's fine. But I
They
need
have to
it.
take turns
I
with it.
want it so much. I want it so much right now.
Oh my god. Oh man, that would be funny.
I just need a
Okay.
spin off of this.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Any other points that we didn't get to that anyone wants to mention?
No?
Gonna
I
take
think-
the resounding silence as a no?
Yeah, I think we're good.
I think we're good,
Okay.
yeah.
That's all I have for now.
Okay, well, I guess we can go ahead and wrap this up then.
Okay. All right. This has been My Hero Analysis. You'll hear us next week. And in the meantime, go beyond plus ultra and thirst responsibly. Bye, y'all.
Thanks again for listening. If you'd like to get in contact with us, have questions you'd like us to discuss on air, give topic suggestions for bonus episodes, or submit fan art for us to display, visit our website at myheroanalysis.com. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Just search for @myheroanalysis. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review.